As the West places the Jewish diaspora into Israel and supports the establishment of a Jewish state, we then also have the responsibility of the West in fueling the economy for the Jewish state. Because you can't, I mean, we did the same thing in Japan. We're going to rebuild. There's economic benefits to the United States in rebuilding foreign countries. There's economic benefits in having allies that you help economically rebuild. So fast forward till today, and now you have Israel had this massive boost economically from Western partners and Western allies when they were placed in Israel. The Palestinian counterparts did not have access to that financial benefit that the Israelis did. So there's, like you said, decades of conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, and everything's documented out there, and there's 1,000 ways that you can look at it and interpret it and whatever else. But in the end, what happened was the Palestinians, through the lens of most Muslim countries, became oppressed, became ostracized from their own land, their own nation, where they could thrive and to build an economy and build a political establishment and build a legacy for their future. Because that land was being supported and developed by the Jewish state, and the Jewish state and the Muslim state just didn't want to get along for a number of reasons that we don't really have a say in because we didn't live there at the time, right? And that's how I interpret the many years of historical conflict between Palestinians and Israelis in that country. The place where we have to fast forward this to is till 1997. In 1987, Hamas became a political group that was supporting Palestinians in their fight to resist what was perceived to be Israeli oppression. Hamas became the more aggressive group versus the Palestinian Authority, which became what's known as a secular group or a non-religious group. And those became the two political powers vying for support from the Palestinian people. And at the time in 1987, the vast majority of that support went to the Palestinian Authority, not to Hamas. Hamas's promise at the time was, we will destroy the Israeli country and we will return the entire country back to the Muslim people. Not a religious war. They weren't going after killing Jews. They were trying to destroy Israel. Not that it makes it that much better, but at least to clarify what their ambitions were in 1987. Nobody determined that Hamas was a terrorist organization in 1987, despite their claim, despite their promise to eradicate Israel. In 1997, following major terrorist attacks inside the United States, the peak being the Timothy McVeigh bombing of Oklahoma City, the United States became very focused on terrorism and counterterrorism. And in 1987, they created the Terrorist Watch List, or the Foreign Terrorist Organization List. And in that list, they listed every Muslim extremist group as a terrorist organization. On that list, Hamas was included. So at that moment in time in 1997, based on what was happening in the United States in their struggle with extremism, they targeted Muslim extremism as one of the many extremisms that they would list as terrorist organizations. That's why even today, the United States lists Hamas as a terrorist group, where most of the rest of the world does not. There's only 12 countries total that list Hamas as a terrorist organization. And in many ways, it's because those 12 countries, there's 11 countries, take the lead, they follow the lead of the United States. The UN as an organization does not list Hamas as terrorist. So in 1997, Hamas becomes a terrorist group, but they're this terrorist group that also has a political arm that's supporting and taking care of the Palestinian people within Gaza. That's already kind of a mess. That becomes complicated, right? Palestine can't create a standing army. They can't create their own standing economy. They can't create foreign trade. They can't create anything significant because they're not recognized as a nation. So a few Muslim countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Egypt recognize the Palestinian people, but not the Palestinian state. And everybody recognizes the right of the Palestinians to a state, but nobody wants to say what that state is going to be. So that becomes a mess that most of the first world doesn't even follow, doesn't really care about until things start blowing up in Israel and Palestine.